Buckle up, buttercups, because you are not going to believe the saga I'm about to unload. This isn't just a story about a nightmare boss. Oh no, this is a tale of petty tyranny, weaponized punctuality, and the glorious, sweet, sweet nectar of malicious compliance. This is the Ballad of Brenda and the 30 billable minutes. And it all started with a phrase so mind-numbingly idiotic, it should be enshrined in the museum of corporate bullshit. If you're on time, you're late. That was Brenda's mantra, her gospel, her hill to die on, probably while meticulously checking her watch. Brenda, our mid-level manager at Innovate Solutions Inc., a name so generic it practically screamed, "We make spreadsheets and slowly crush souls," wasn't just a stickler for punctuality. She was a goddamn zealot, a high priestess at the altar of the unpaid 15 minutes before your actual paid shift begins. Picture this, a woman whose posture was so ramrod straight, you'd think she swallowed a yardstick for breakfast. Hair sculpted into a helmet-like bob that probably hadn't shifted since the Reagan administration. And eyes, man, her eyes. They were like two little laser pointers, constantly scanning for infractions, for any sign that you weren't dedicating every waking, and preferably some unwaking, moments to the glorious cause of Innovate Solutions. Her office wasn't so much an office as it was a temporal distortion field. You'd walk past, and the air would get colder, clocks would tick louder. She had this framed needlepoint thing on her wall, a gift from a previous, undoubtedly traumatized team that read, "The early bird gets the worm and doesn't get reprimanded." Subtle, right? Every morning without fail, Brenda would patrol the cubicle farm like a shark, circling a school of particularly anxious minnows. If you dared to slide into your chair at, say, 8:59 a.m. for a 9 a.m. start, you were met with the look. The look was a carefully calibrated cocktail of disappointment, pity, and the unspoken accusation that you were personally sabotaging the company's quarterly earnings. This would often be followed by a drive-by shaming her voice, a surprisingly sharp instrument for such a compact woman cutting through the morning quiet. "Morning, David. Cutting it a little close, aren't we? Some of us have been here since 7:45 a.m. strategizing. But you know, you do you. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you absolute heathen." The kicker? Those extra 15 minutes, those sacred strategizing moments she expected from us? Unpaid, of course. This wasn't about productivity. This was about fealty. This was about proving you loved Innovate Solutions more than sleep, more than your first cup of coffee, more than the rapidly diminishing will to live. I wasn't a slacker. I got my work done, hit my deadlines. I just also happen to believe that if my contract said 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., then call me crazy. But 9 a.m. was when my paid obligations began. This, in Brenda's world, made me a dangerous radical. One bright, optimistic morning, fueled by an extra shot of espresso and a dangerous amount of naivety, I decided to question the doctrine. Brenda had just finished her pep talk, which was mostly a thinly veiled threat about upcoming performance reviews and the importance of going the extra unpaid mile. "Brenda," I began, my voice a little shakier than I intended, "just a quick question about the pre-shift strategizing. If we're expected to be here 15 minutes early, actively contributing, shouldn't that time be compensated?" The entire floor went silent. You could hear a paperclip drop. Brenda turned, slow and deliberate, like a T-Rex spotting a particularly impudent velociraptor. Her perfectly drawn eyebrows arched so high they threatened to merge with her hairline. Then she laughed. Not a chuckle, not a giggle. A full-throated, head-thrown-back cackle, like I just told the funniest joke in the history of corporate drudgery. "Compensated?" she finally wheezed, wiping a tear from her eye. "Oh, Ethan, you're a riot. That's a good one. Really, compensated. Next, you'll be asking for a gold-plated stapler." She patted my shoulder, a gesture that felt less like camaraderie and more like a warning. "Initiative, Ethan. That's what this is about. Showing initiative. The kind of thing that gets you noticed." I slunk back to my cubicle, the laughter of my colleagues, some nervous, some genuinely amused at my audacity, echoing in my ears. My cheeks burned. A riot, huh? Okay, Brenda, okay. You want initiative? You want me to be noticed? Challenge accepted? That night, I didn't sleep much. Brenda's condescending laughter replayed in my head on a loop. It wasn't just about the 15 minutes of unpaid labor. It was the dismissal, the absolute, unadulterated arrogance, the implication that my time, my effort, was worth so little it could be demanded as a freebie, a little offering at the altar of her managerial ego. I tossed and turned, staring at the cracked paint on my bedroom ceiling. I could quit, sure. The tech job market wasn't terrible. But something in me, a stubborn, slightly vindictive spark, ignited. Why should I be the one to slink away? Why should Brenda get to keep peddling her bullshit, unchallenged? And then, like a divine revelation delivered by the gods of petty revenge, it hit me. Malicious compliance. The art of following instructions so precisely, so literally, that it blows up in the face of the person who gave them. Brenda wanted us there early. If you're on time, you're late. 15 minutes early was the bare minimum. She wanted us to be really prepared. Fine. I'd be the most prepared, most punctual, most initiative-showing motherfucker Innovate Solutions had ever seen. The company, for all its soul-crushing bureaucracy, had one thing going for it: a digital time clock system. We were hourly employees, every minute logged, every overtime second meticulously calculated by an unfeeling, unbiased algorithm. Brenda, in her infinite wisdom, hadn't thought that one through. The plan was beautiful in its simplicity. If 15 minutes early was the bare minimum, then 30 minutes early must be exemplary, right? Practically sainthood in Brenda's skewed little world. I start showing up a full half hour before my shift, and the moment my ass hit that worn-out, ergonomically questionable office chair, I'd clock in every single day. A slow, Grinch-like smile spread across my face in the darkness. Oh, Brenda, you have no idea what you've just unleashed. The first morning was a little rough. My alarm screamed at me at an hour usually reserved for insomniacs and particularly ambitious bakers. I dragged myself out of bed, the sky outside still a deep, inky black. The city was quiet, a sleeping giant. My commute, usually a frustrating crawl, was a breeze. I was, I kid you not, the first person in the entire office building, apart from the yawning security guard who looked at me like I'd grown a second head. I sauntered into our department, the fluorescent lights humming a lonely tune. Brenda's office was dark. The cubicles were empty, silent tombs. I made a beeline for the time clock terminal, punched in my code, and watched with immense satisfaction as the screen confirmed. Ethan Miller clocked in, 8:30 a.m. Then, I made a show of it. I didn't just sit there scrolling through Reddit, though, believe me, the temptation was strong. I ostentatiously organized my desk. I sharpened pencils I never used. I reread emails from the previous day with an air of intense concentration. I even, and this was my masterstroke, started brewing the communal coffee pot. Me, the guy who usually stumbled in just in time to snag the dregs. When Brenda finally made her grand entrance, right around 8:45 a.m., because, of course, her on time was different, she did a double take. Her perfectly sculpted eyebrows did that little upward twitch again. "Ethan?" she said, her voice laced with surprise, and maybe, just maybe, a hint of suspicion. "You're early." "Morning, Brenda," I chirped, beaming at her with the unholy zeal of a new convert. "Just wanted to get a head start, you know. Be really prepared. Like you always say, 15 minutes early is just the bare minimum, right? Figured I'd aim for above and beyond." She stared at me, her laser pointer eyes trying to dissect my motives. I just kept smiling, a picture of wide-eyed, eager beaver innocence. She couldn't fault me. I was, by her own twisted logic, the model employee. She grunted something non-committal and swept into her office, probably to consult her needlepoint oracle for guidance. This went on for a week. Every day, 8:30 a.m. on the dot. I was there, clocking in, making coffee, looking as busy and prepared as humanly possible. My colleagues started noticing, "Dude, what's with the early bird routine?" Mark from accounting whispered one morning as I was strategically refilling the paper in the copier. I just winked. Brenda's orders, man. Gotta be prepared. The best part? The confrontation I was eagerly anticipating. It came on a Thursday, about a week and a half into Operation Early Bird. Brenda called me into her office. Her expression, a carefully constructed mask of managerial concern. "Ethan," she began, steepling her fingers on her pristine desk, "I've noticed you've been exceptionally punctual lately." "Just trying to follow your guidance, Brenda," I said, all sunshine and rainbows. "You know, if you're on time, you're late." I really took that to heart. Want to make sure I'm giving Innovate Solutions my absolute best right from the get-go. "Yes, well," she said, a slight tremor in her voice. "While I appreciate the enthusiasm, clocking in a full 30 minutes early every day, is that strictly necessary?" "Necessary?" I feigned confusion. "Well, you said 15 minutes was the bare minimum. I figured to be really prepared to show that extra initiative you value so much, 30 minutes would be better. Am I misunderstanding something?" I tilted my head, the picture of earnest confusion. She sputtered. But that's a lot of extra time, Ethan." "It is," I agreed enthusiastically. "And I'm happy to put it in. Whatever it takes to ensure I'm not late by Innovate Solutions standards." Her eye twitched. Just a little, but I saw it. Victory in micro expressions. "The thing is, Ethan," she said, trying a different tack, "that extra time, it's accumulating on your timesheet." "Oh, is it?" I asked, feigning surprise. "Well, the system just logs when I clock in and clock out. I'm just being honest about my arrival time. Isn't that what we're supposed to do?" Check and mate. She knew I was hourly. She knew the system logged every minute. She knew that legally, if I was clocked in and on company premises, ready to work, they had to pay me. She had painted herself into a corner with her own ridiculous, unpaid labor extorting mantra. She tried to argue, to bluster, to imply that I was somehow gaming the system. But I just kept smiling, kept repeating her own words back to her, kept insisting I was only trying to be the best, most punctual, most prepared employee she could ever hope for. She eventually dismissed me, her face a lovely shade of puce, her helmet hair practically vibrating with suppressed rage. The next few weeks were glorious. I continued my 8:30 a.m. arrivals, my performative preparedness. The coffee in our department had never been better or brewed earlier. My desk was a shining beacon of organization, and my paychecks, oh my beautiful burgeoning paychecks. They started reflecting an extra 2.5 hours of overtime every week. Not a fortune, but enough to make a difference, enough to make a point. Brenda avoided me. If our paths crossed in the hallway, she'd suddenly find something fascinating on the opposite wall. The morning patrols became less frequent, her drive-by shamings almost non-existent. It was beautiful. My colleagues, bless their observant souls, started putting two and two together. Mark from accounting actually gave me a slow clap one day when Brenda scurried past him to avoid making eye contact with me. Sarah from HR, who'd also been on the receiving end of Brenda's punctuality sermons, bought me a donut. It was a small, silent rebellion, a cubicle farm uprising fueled by caffeine and shared resentment. The real crescendo, though, the moment I'd been waiting for, arrived about a month into my MaliciousCompliance campaign. It came in the form of an email, CC'd to Brenda, from none other than Mr. Henderson, the VP of Operations. The subject line, "Query Re, Team Alpha Overtime Costs." Oh, sweet, sweet corporate jargon, my heart did a little samba. The email, polite but firm, noted a significant and unexpected increase in overtime expenditure for Brenda's team, Team Alpha, because Innovate Solutions was that creative with naming conventions. Mr. Henderson requested a meeting with Brenda to discuss strategies for optimizing resource allocation and managing departmental budgets more effectively. Translation: Brenda, what in the ever-loving hell are you doing? And why is your team suddenly costing us a small fortune in overtime? I may or may not have printed out that email and subtly left it on the break room table, just, for informational purposes. The meeting between Brenda and Mr. Henderson apparently did not go well for Brenda. I wasn't privy to the details, of course. But the office grapevine, a surprisingly efficient and often hilariously inaccurate information network, was buzzing. Whispers of raised voices, of Brenda looking flustered, of Mr. Henderson using phrases like fiscal responsibility and managerial oversight. The aftermath was immediate and spectacular. The very next Monday morning, an email landed in every Team Alpha inbox. Sender, Brenda. Subject, clarification on arrival time expectations. My fingers trembled slightly as I clicked it open. Team, it began, the usual Brenda-esque corporate cheerfulness conspicuously absent. There appears to have been some misunderstanding regarding optimal arrival times. While initiative and preparedness are always valued at Innovate Solutions, I want to clarify that adherence to your scheduled start time is perfectly acceptable and meets all company expectations. It went on a masterpiece of backpedaling and carefully worded retractions. No mention of if you're on time, you're late. No veiled threats about bare minimums. Suddenly, magically, showing up on time was fine. More than fine. It was, dare I say, encouraged. The shaming stopped. The morning patrols ceased. Brenda, when she saw me, actually managed a tight, forced smile that looked like it might crack her face. I, of course, immediately reverted to my old ways. 8:58 a.m., a quick coffee grab, and a slide into my chair just as the clock ticked over to 9 o'clock. No more early bird, no more extra paid mile. The point had been made. The system had been, however briefly, gloriously, and pettily beaten. My overtime paychecks went back to normal. Mr. Henderson probably chalked it up to a temporary blip, a managerial hiccup swiftly corrected. But I knew. Brenda knew. And now, Reddit, you know too. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about respect. It was about pushing back in a small, legally unassailable way against a petty tyrant who thought she could exploit her employees under the guise of company culture. It was about proving that sometimes the best way to deal with a ridiculous rule is to follow it to its most absurd, logical, and beautifully inconvenient conclusion. So, if you ever find yourself under the thumb of your own Brenda, remember this story. Remember the power of malicious compliance. And remember that sometimes arriving 30 minutes early and making damn sure you get paid for it can be the sweetest revenge of all. Just make sure your company has a good time logging system and maybe invest in a good coffee machine for those early starts. You'll be a hero, or at least a very well caffeinated, slightly richer, and deeply satisfied employee